detail, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in. So let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1, BSAC to be appointed to serve as Youngstown's financial director. Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown has announced that he will appoint Kyle BSAC as the city's finance director. BSAC will no longer hold the interim tag, which he held since the beginning of 2018, January. BSAC he has been working diligently through the wrath of COVID-19 to make sure that the city has been able to meet its financial goals. Story number 2. Don't forget about Valorec. Democrat Tim Ryan testified before the U.S. International Trade Commission in his attempt to ensure that Valorec is not a victim of unfair trade practices. The article is brief but points out some important talking points in the steel business on a global scale. Now, the main talking point in the article, in this local article, is how illegal dumping and subsidizing from other countries really has had a lasting effect on Valorec's bottom line. We mean as employees and probably is money. Now, this small article is key to pulling readers into how other nations can corner the market and can purposely strong-arm other steel producers while also affecting their facilities with illegal dumping and subsidizing. Now, the key to Tim Ryan's testimony is that he wants to level the trading field, the playing field, with fair laws in which everyone is following the rules so that Valorec can continue to compete in the market. Now, the article is brief, but what it fails to do is dig deeper into the subject at hand and how Valorec has been affected by those breaking the rules. So this is what the article fails to do. Now, the article also fails to point out the consequences of how those who have already broken the trade rules with the consequences that they have to face if they've already broken the law. The story is still developing. Story number 3, Boardman mall owner facing a financial wall. Adding to a wave of business owners in the bankruptcy line, Southern Park Mall has been forced to file for bankruptcy protection. And I say forced because they probably didn't want to. Now, after watching its stock dive 60%, Southern Park Mall's operator will look to file for Chapter 11 protection, which will give the company some time to restructure, give them some breathing room. Southern Park Mall has served the Mahoning County area since 1970, if you did not know, and has kept a very high standard of quality services they've put the standard in place when it comes to services and accountability for their mall tenants. So they have a very high standards to be in that mall to do business with it. Now, it is important to note that bankruptcy protection is not uncommon for businesses or business owners. So let's hope Southern Park Mall rebounds in an already tough market in which COVID-19 has made even worse. Southern Park Mall, it has already started adjusting to very, very competitive retail. They've already started adjusting to the very competitive retail market that we face now, and they will probably need as much community support as they possibly can get. So let's not forget about Southern Park Mall. That's why story number 3 made it in this week. Story number 4, Canfield is planning a water project that will help combat flooding. Canfield made some headlines as council members have approved of an agreement to a water project that will help alleviate flooding, as stated in the local report. The improvements will be made to existing stormwater infrastructure. Now, most of the dynamics in regards to engineering contracts are all in this article, and the entire process involved and all this process is still ongoing. The article also highlights some key players involved in the project. It mentions Youngstown Water Department and FEMA. They were also mentioned in the article. Now, this story is just one of many stories discussing improvements being made in the local community. So you probably will see a lot of construction work, a lot of things going on locally, especially as federal dollars pour in. Story number 5. What will it take to win Youngstown's next mayoral race? Youngstown is getting closer and closer to the next mayoral race, and here are some critical issues that will decide who can win. Youngstown's economy is one. Now, which candidate will be able to develop the policies that will allow businesses to thrive in the local economy, and how will they reward the businesses that are already here? Now, another concern is how can they bring in more jobs, and how can they create more jobs with the businesses that are already in place. Number 2, which candidate will be focused on infrastructure? Youngstown roads and bridges are always in need of upgrades, but how will the money be obtained to get a high rating on infrastructure? That's just number 2. Number 3, crime, violence. I'm sure you get the picture. Now, what plans does the city have to combat, or will the next candidate have to combat the increasing problem of crime? Number 4, education. Under House Bill 70, what plans does the city have to rebound from an F grade that almost seems impossible to recover from at this moment? And how will the city operate with orders coming in from the state? So that's why these issues are pivotal to who will be able to win the next elections. Now, out of all of these 4 questions, if any of Youngstown's candidates can develop a plan to effectively execute and deliver on these 4 main concerns, then they may have a good chance at a victory and at getting a job. Story number 6. Violence in Youngstown is becoming a political concern. Youngstown's police and politicians will be pressed to get a hold on the city's crime and already increasing homicide rate. Many are fearing that as the weather gets warmer, that things will get even worse. Now, a staff report by the Vindicator headlined that a pair of homicides on the south side were reported within a 24 hours span. So it wasn't even 24 hours before the next homicide occurred. And then the crazy part was that this was not the end. 72 hours later, the 5th homicide was reported. New Police Chief Carl Davis went on the record warning of an increased police presence to help combat the crime problems, as they are trying their best to get a hold of crime problems in the city. And it's becoming a big problem because people do not like when they have to see relatives die at the hand of other people. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Mediation is tough, but I gotta get through it. Mental health problems or crime problems. Which one do you choose? Which one is causing the most problems? Now, with so many people being incarcerated, local justice officials are noticing that jails are becoming big mental institutions that are costing a lot of money. Now, the sad part about this story is that when they see people get tangled in the justice system, they often think of the crime but fail to think about the person's mental health state. Now, the truth is that the majority of people in prison suffer from some form of mental condition. Now, this issue is a reality that will not change until there is a culture shift in America that many are calling for. Now, in this developing story, local justice officials are sounding the alarm now before jails. They're saying we need to get this problem under control now before jails become so crowded with mental health patients that the cost becomes overwhelming. Story number 7 is a big headline. That's why I made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it in this week is the local COVID-19 battle almost over. Maybe. Mike DeWine has gone on the record stating that victory is in sight, folks. He has also put out a timeline by stating that once virus cases per 100,000 residents hold steady at 54 before 2 weeks that he will lift mask mandates. I mean, we will probably no longer have to wear a mask. Now, one local front page Vindicator article that made headlines last Friday detailed DeWine's COVID-19 recovery plan. The article mainly focuses on how case numbers have been declining and reflects on the then and now factors before declaring victory. This is by they're trying to do this by pointing out the case numbers and that are reported after people have been vaccinated to see if this is a factor. Vaccinations, if it's causing almost the victory lap. Now, the article really does hit on all angles when talking about the case numbers, the vaccine rates. It really goes in detail. It's a very big article. Now, the key talking point is that the state of Ohio could finally be nearing an end to the COVID-19 saga. The story is still developing, and that's why I made it to the top this week, because it was once COVID-19 goes away, then people may feel a little bit more comfortable, and they may try to get things back to normal, and at least start getting some money back in their pocket if they desire to go back to work. So story number 8, big headline. That's why I made it in this week. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. You're in The Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. It goes to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program.